is my first real run through. What I'm going to talk about is my takeaways from my journey as an entrepreneur for the past 3 years of actual effort. So who am I? So I've ran around 4 startups. 2 have fizzled out. One is I've actually called a failure. One was an industry first. That was a blood tracking system for developing nations on blockchain technology. No one theorized it until I brought it up. One has 2 Fortune 500 partners and is actually still running. And one has 80,000 users all around the world in every country except North Korea, South Sudan, and the continent of Antarctica. And I made 2 big mistakes that cost me $800,000. Turned down an internship to BCG right out of high school to go build a startup. And that startup, we burned $1 million in cash. And I am responsible for that. Have a little staff of 15, and I've won tons of hackathons, which I'll explain what those are later, and we made tons of money there. So tons of experience in a bunch of different industries. But my big 3 takeaways here are go, work, and inquire. And that's what I'm sort of posing to you if you're trying to be an entrepreneur. So let's go into go. What I mean about go is, so personally I'm pretty introverted, and I don't really like to go places. I'm pretty comfortable where I am usually. But I think that's a big issue if you're trying to be an entrepreneur. So let's talk about hackathons. So a hackathon is a 24 to 48 hour pitch competition in which you form a team, you work with companies, you identify actual problems, and then you create a technology solution, which then you pitch after 24 to 48 hours. And so I first found out about hackathon in St. Louis out in 2016 after my sophomore year of college, high school, and it was a blockchain hackathon. Bitcoin and blockchain were very new in 2016. There wasn't much tech around it, but there's tons of hype. So I had nothing else to lose. I attended. The people there, not my age. I was the youngest person they've ever seen. Most of them are professional programmers, or were professional programmers. People at MIT, Stanford, all the Ivy League schools. And then there'd be a 16-year-old. So I decided, hey, I'm just going to solo this, not burden anyone with my lack of skills. And I ended up creating blockchain. Won $2,500 in crypto back in 2016. You can do the math of what that's worth now. But what that taught me was I should go to these events. But after that, I was still kind of introverted. But I soon realized that if you're introverted, that's a fancy way of saying you're lazy. Because you're comfortable with where you are, and to be entrepreneurial, you always have to be pushing. It's like a marathon, and you're in front, and all the big companies that want to kill you, like the little squirrel you are running behind you. So you always have to be looking for new opportunities, and you should never stop. So yeah, that's why I really recommend you do hackathons. And another reason I recommend you do these competitions, find them and attend them, is it stimulates a startup in that you, again, identify the idea, you work with actual companies, ask them what their problems are and how you can come up with a solution, and you build that solution. But while you're doing that, you find sort of the right people. And the more and more you do it, you find the people that shouldn't be on your team. So I've sort of developed the ability of talking with people and understanding, are they going to be committed to this project? Do they bring the right skills to the table? And do I think they're actually going to be someone that I can work with long term? And in 24 hours, if I hate talking to them, if I really want to escape, then I will never partner with them. And that's why I really recommend you guys attend these type of events. You can find the people that may not be within this university, within the Cornell school. You can find people that you somehow work well with, that you mesh with, and you can make the next startup. So that's why I recommend it. Now on to work. So you can already know that entrepreneurship requires lots and lots and lots of work. So the one thing I'm going to begin with is saying that your degree doesn't matter, in that there's so many people that got a degree and they're working in a completely different industry. A good example of this was actually is one of my co-founders at one of the companies I work at. He went to high school, he dropped out, and then he went to college, and then he dropped out again, and then he ended up getting his MD. Now he's a doctor that runs a cryptocurrency company. That kind of tells you it really doesn't matter what your degree is, and that you shouldn't be like, you shouldn't enclose your mind to your degree, in that you shouldn't think that I'm in the business school, or I'm in the school of engineering, and I'm in a professional organization alongside it, and that's going to yield a job in the future. That's how you end up getting replaced by automation. You need to diversify, I feel. Understand a bunch of different industries. Around campus, you have professors who are doing research in, for example, nanopore technology that really can't sell this technology because they're researchers and all they want to do is research. That's a perfect opportunity where you can apply business skills, go to them and help them sell their product. If they don't want to help you, steal their idea and run with it. Because that's, in the end, it's the people that can pull that off that really will survive. So throw your ethics out the window is wrong with it. And then, let's see, go to another one. And it sucks 90% of the time. So with all these startups, I'm a lot of times stuck in, an issue yesterday we had was wiring money across the world to an employee and now it bounced back. And this is the stuff I'm dealing with every day. Working with regulators, and I dealt with a regulator, Tyler Lindholm in Wyoming, and he said, quote, "If you don't move your company to Wyoming, I'm going to make sure it's impossible for you to do business." Dealing with that, of all these issues, dealing with firing, dealing with hiring, it really isn't fun, and it sucks 90% of the time, but if you really have a passion for the idea, I feel, in the end, it's worthwhile. So yeah, and you'll fail. So one idea that I worked on was this company called Identifying.me, and this is actually an idea that ended up failing. So what Identifying.me did was it created a digital version of your ID through your LinkedIn, by connecting your Facebook and some other ideas. I pushed it through EQ, but in the end, the idea kind of fizzled out. And the reason was because the co-founder kind of decided to do his master's, his PhD in Norway, and it was sort of left me with the company, and I sort of lost passion in the idea. But it's all right, because the takeaways from that company have now landed me a job again at BCG in Singapore, which I was talking with BCG yesterday. So sometimes you'll fail, but in the end you learn the lessons of maybe next time I should choose a better co-founder. Next time I should change the way I approach this business, choose a different industry, whatever. But you learn from your failure, which is a big thing in entrepreneurship. So if you fail once, don't worry about it. It literally is part of the process. If you're not failing, you're doing something wrong. Or you just hit it lucky for your first time. Now let's talk about inquiry. So this is my favorite one, actually, because I believe the best way to be an entrepreneur is by continually inquiring around about the world around you. And in that, going around in your day-to-day life and understanding the problems in the world is how you're going to find, I think, your next startup. It's the best way. Because if you don't actually find problems, you'll end up shoehorning a solution into a problem that doesn't exist, and in the end, your startup will fail. So what I do is I consume tons of information on the news, understand current events, because from current events you can understand issues that the normal consumer can face. And I'll give you a good example. So I went to a hackathon out in San Francisco, actually. Yeah, and there we created a program called Pollinate, or a startup called Pollinate, which does last mile package delivery in developing nations. The way I understood, the way we came up with this idea was by understanding the state of package delivery in the world. And so me and a friend of mine, we were talking, it's like, every time we go back to India, we have to be Best Buy mobile in that we load up our baggage with electronics, because for some reason our relatives don't trust the shipping system and e-commerce system in the countries. And as we started talking about the idea, we came up with this idea of, what if we fix these delivery systems? What if we created, what if we went to developing nations and created logistics networks, the Uber style, that will create reliable package delivery, and in turn fix this issue that me and him were facing, where we're giving like one of our carry-on bags just for electronics. So that's what I'm talking about with inquiry, consume tons of information, and as you consume tons of information, you come up with ideas. The one thing I hope that you take away is you avoid zero-sum ideas, and by zero-sum ideas, I mean ideas that don't give back or don't do anything for society. You could probably name a few, like if you want to create an online course that for $500 teaches people to sell real estate. What exactly does that do for society? And you've heard these courses online. Don't fall into that trap, because I think the end goal of entrepreneurship should be to create a better world for everyone to live in, and in turn you will make money. But your goal should be to create a better world for all to live in. But yeah, that was my sort of unprepared speech. Here's the takeaways again. Go, work, and acquire. And with that, who's the next one?